Welcome to the Revenue Rewired podcast, hosted by StringCan Interactive's visionary CEO Jay Feitlinger and no-nonsense COO Sarah Shepard. We're here to accelerate your revenue and give your marketing purpose. All right, hello and welcome everybody to this next episode, very special episode of the Revenue Rewired podcast. Today we have a special guest. It's not Jay today, sorry guys, but it is Matt Timlin. Say hi, Matt.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So good. So good. By the way, we're freezing here in Arizona. I meant to brag to you earlier, but I
Oh,
can't
I
do it
don't even
now.
don't even start. It's been raining all week in San Diego and it's brutal. It's not fun.
Ooh, I remember that was a deal last year, and I was talking to Brenton, and she's like, "People here are not dealing with this well.
No,
They
like
don't do well
you
when the sun's not shining."
no, especially when you have to learn how to drive in the rain, it's not something that Californians enjoy much.
No, I don't think you guys are
Including
good at driving,
myself.
anyways.
No, not at all.
Just, just kidding.
Not at all.
All right. Well, as you could see, Matt and I have a good rapport, and we've got some even better topics for you guys today. So, one of the things that comes up a lot, and I thought you guys might want to hear from the source, is the ROI question that ruins every marketing budget. And Matt and I chatted a little bit about some thoughts on this one, and I'll share a little bit about Matt first. And he's I hate to say the word performance marketing strategist because it sounds so much lamer than what you actually do and how thoughtful you are in all the work that you do. Working with us at StringCan, you work on scaling brands through all kinds of components, paid media being one of those main components. But you are very innovative, thoughtful, super duper strategic. I've never seen someone pivot like you do, and you care so much about, like, almost obsessive about revenue. You have zero ego when it comes to paid media, which I don't, it kind of seems to creep up a little bit like, oh, we used to do it this way. You are go with the flow. Um, all the new stuff, you're already aware of it, and you work with companies that truly want to work hard and get real traction and not just kind of fluff and jargon and we do this the same way all the time. And so, you're a really incredible resource. You're very intelligent and well spoken. And so I think you're going to be a perfect guest to talk about this super fun, juicy topic today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting the well-spoken part. I feel like I kind of go off the rails sometimes, where I have to kind of dial back to make sure you all, the team, and the clients understand me, because I my obsessiveness takes control of the conversation sometimes. But I think that the team really makes my job honestly easier, to be able to be obsessive and to perform, because they understand that side of me. So it's also nice to have like that balance with the team, which allows me to be even I like to say like manic or like freakier, when it comes to driving revenue for our clients.
It's really funny because Ryan and I he's my fellow nerd and I'll
Uh-huh.
be like, "Can I show you this spreadsheet?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." So yesterday we were totally nerding out over a spreadsheet he made in Claude. It was super cool.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's my new favorite. That's my new favorite. I like to say it's the monster. It's the monster of
I
marketing.
it's like Jay and I have this constant PC Mac disagreement, and now it's become this like chat Claude disagreement where he's holding on to his custom GPT like with an
Ooh.
iron fist, and I'm like, don't care. I am agnostic to the tool. It's whichever one's making me less angry.
Which for me, I'm like, whichever one's taking the most time to give me my answers, that's the one I want.
That's really funny. Well, is interesting just even that conversation we just had about our AI tool and how I think I've seen some warnings coming from people where they're like, "Hey, do not get too attached because there's going to be this like almost arms race type of situation happening. Resources are just going to be really shifting at avalanche paces versus glacial, and don't get too attached." And so I thought that was really interesting. And it's a kind of a good segue into our topic, which is, talking about channels and what we call the attribution trap. And I know when
Hmm.
I approached you with this topic, it's been a hot button for probably longer than I would care to admit, maybe your entire career.
Hmm.
But can you just maybe give us your definition of what the attribution trap even is?
Yeah, the attribution trap, and it's crazy because it's changed over the last. I've been doing this for 10 years now. Crazy, but it's changed tremendously, especially now that there are so many different marketing channels out there. But the attribution trap is, the concept that it's hard to identify nowadays who is really driving the revenue, the conversions, the leads from a marketing perspective, because there's much more of an omni-channel approach in businesses' marketing strategy, more than there ever has been. So it's a lot harder to measure the weight each channel has in driving a conversion or purchase or even just straight revenue, because they all kind of work together. So with that, it just kind of makes everything a lot more difficult to understand. And the story has just changed dramatically in how businesses need to look at how to allocate their budget, and they get trapped doing the same old thing where they want to focus on one or two channels, which is fine, but you get to a point where you're trapped and you're limited, where the growth is only going to be as much as you want to kind of buy into that system and into that trap, unfortunately.
Do you think it's possible in digital marketing to even have, unless you're running a single channel, which even then there's still like some organic overlap, is it even possible if you run more than one channel to have a clean line from like end to end when it comes to attribution?
I think that it just depends on the channels that you choose. I think that when you look at the primary channels of Google and Facebook, there's never going to be a clean line between those two channels, unfortunately, because they both want to take as much credit as possible because they are the marketing beasts of our time right now. But if you say like you want to throw Google ads and combine it with LinkedIn ads in a channel, that attribution is going to look entirely different, and you're actually able to kind of weigh it out differently and really identify which one's actually driving revenue. And same with like something like Nextdoor, even Reddit to an extent, and many other kind of like those smaller channels. But it's very, very difficult to nowadays with what our clients and even a bunch of other companies want to actually run.
So what do you think, when a client asks, prove this campaign is working, what is happening in that conversation? Because I know this question you probably get asked, I don't know, tell me how many times on average you get asked this like a week.
Oh my gosh, probably a dozen or two dozen. And it changes also for every single client depending on what their strategy is and even how much ad spend that they're throwing out there on a monthly basis. Because you get to a point where, if you're throwing 2 grand at something, like attribution kind of almost doesn't matter as long as you're seeing some of that revenue growth and that conversion. Of course, we want to be able to like really, segment and isolate the data at that small level so we can drive success and efficiency. But when you start scaling that spend and adding those multiple channels, it's difficult. So the way that I like to break it down is you kind of look at the 3 different phases, which is your marketing funnel, really, of you have your top of funnel, which is kind of more the awareness side of things and really trying to get that engagement from an individual at the first touch. And then you have something that's a little bit in the middle, so middle of funnel, which is, okay, what's that consideration that we're looking at? Are they doing research? Are they getting hit now by other ads of other companies that know that you're in that consideration phase? So they kind of like want to, get into the party, right? And we're at the door trying to not let them in. And then you have that bottom of funnel where we're trying to drive that conversion. So you have to actually isolate now, like how long is the individual take from step one to say step three of being able to actually convert, but then also being able to understand that journey fully. And with businesses, if we do not understand that journey fully, then it's a lot harder to actually understand the attribution from channel to channel. And so I think that the conversation with clients that you have to have is, how can we identify or how can we break down the customer journey into like an itemized list of action? And like, do we know our customer? It actually turns into more of a conversation of what is our customer doing? Do we know how our customer actually interacts? And then forming that marketing strategy around that.
This is kind of a side philosophical question, in potentially the phases of the acquisition journey of a customer, where do you see AI offering the most benefit?
I think that AI is kind of more offering the most benefit. There's two parts of AI, and this is from a marketing head because I'm not fully sold on AI sometimes within marketing. I think that it's a beautiful thing, but there's two types of people, and I hate saying this because I don't want to like degrade anybody and think that I know better. There's two types of people. People that use AI like a normal person, where they're just like searching and they just hope to see their answer. And then you have somebody that is very intelligent with the thought of how they are interacting with an AI, and they're going to get an entirely different answer than somebody that is just searching to search. And so I think that it depends on those types of people. So for the first cohort of individuals, it's really at the beginning of their research phase, and really identifying what they are even looking for and just wanting a quick answer. And then the second cohort is more that middle bottom of funnel where they're just trying to get straight to the answer, but they're good at getting the answer right away. And so it actually skips steps in the funnel for those types of individuals versus the individuals that don't know necessarily how to leverage it. It could be as simple as me hopping on, ChatGPT and going, give me the best recipe for, this Valentine's Day or something. Like that's such a such a high funnel type of question versus somebody going in, hey, I want to have a beautiful night with my girlfriend. I want to make, chicken piccata, but I can't find the right recipe. Give me the right recipe for chicken piccata that has the best side, that complements the chicken piccata. What is also the best wine pairing with that? Like there's such a difference in communication and different answer that you're going to receive.
I really like that description, and it kind of shows itself in the Chat GPT commercials in particular,
Hmm.
because the whole point, and we've talked about this, is the prompt. And so I think that's where search is also getting more and more specific. And you've seen the evolution of that through the years,
Oh.
as we've seen keywords just it went from, you remember Ask Jeeves? I am so
Hmm.
dating myself, but you could ask the most generic question, but there wasn't as much information.
Hmm.
Now you have to make your question more specific to wade through just the myriad of information. And AI is trying to show you that that's a possibility, but you can get the top of funnel, low hanging fruit opportunities, as well as even more specific down the downstream, I guess. And
Hmm.
I think I agree with you on the cohorts. I think it's just part of, I'm a lazy prompter on purpose because I want to
Yeah.
see where it gets me before I prompt it further, because I almost find specific prompting leads you too far down a rabbit hole and you can't back it up. But
Hmm.
that's like prompt cowboy is the solution for that if you're a lazy prompter. I have to say though, the last couple times I have not been pleased with my outputs with more specific prompts. So
Ah.
I feel like you miss out on AI's reasonability if you're too specific. So
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
digression there was testing, right? And
Oh
so
my gosh, yes.
when you're seeing, like, I've seen so much in just even consistent client accounts, because we've had clients for like a decade plus.
Hmm.
There's there is seasonality that's like pretty typical. You through just an easy GA4 graph, right? And you're seeing these like strange changes. What's going through your mind with all the experience that you have and managing campaigns? I think part of my question is really trying to dial in just how complicated what you do really is.
Yeah, and I think there's like that other part of AI that people actually don't talk about because they're not in it. because there's this other world, and I think that's where I actually tend to look at more than like the human prompts. I don't believe right now currently that like AI is affecting, say, Google Ads in the way that individuals search and interact. I just don't really believe it. But and where I'm going with that is I think that there's a way to simplify how individuals find information by kind of leveraging the AI that all these platforms have built into their algorithms. Like a lot of our individuals out there, they really only think about AI from a consumer side of using AI. Oh, I'm a normal person. How can I leverage ChatGPT? How can I leverage Claude? And I think of it of how can I understand and leverage the AI changes in the algorithms of these platforms? Because that is the other side of this that people are very blind to, where I'm actually looking into the developer notes inside of Google Ads, in the developer notes of Meta's new Andromeda that dropped like way back in like May and June, because that changes how all the media buyers have to actually think and operate, because the system is also getting just as smart because they're capturing all the data from the individuals searching on their interfaces and searching on their browsers for these individual things. So the AIs and the algorithms are just getting as smart. So I actually like to look at it from those changes that are happening within the algorithm of how can I leverage these changes to match the right consumers with how they want to interact, what they want their end goal to look like. And that is where it comes into the seasonality of how can I play into the different seasons of a business's life journey, but also their consumer's life journey. Because I think those are two actually different things. It's like if you look at say an individual that's running, a remodeling, a kitchen remodel company or home remodel company, typically, yeah, like during November, December, January, people are a little bit more focused on spending money for Christmas and for the new year, getting all those things situated. But then from the algorithm side, I'm like, they're still doing research. They're not buying, but they're still doing research. So how can I alter my campaigns to make sure that, hey, even though I'm expecting that I'm not going to get conversions, how can I leverage AI? How can I leverage this consideration of nurturing an individual through this AI and the difference in the funnel, and that's going to dictate the different keywords that I'm using, ad copy that I'm using, and even might even change the optimization goal that I'm using, where it might be a softer conversion for 3-4 months instead of always trying to push, that that tough like lead form like activation. Like, no, 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 no. Let's actually take this a step back and like give you an idea that sometimes it's going to take a little longer to get a customer, and we just have to be okay with that, knowing that it's going to pan out. But it's like, how can I nurture this individual to make sure that they say yes to me early enough where they are going to come back, or at least I can get their information and provide them value before they actually convert. And it actually ends up, you actually ended up in a place where you leverage the right system to make it easier to convert an individual actually.
Do you think part of the extension of the buying cycle, either B2B or B2C side, is partly due to the amount of information they have to sift through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's if we really look at all these companies, and I mean we can look at all the monster companies that have kind of just made a name for themselves, like the Apples, the Microsofts, the Nikes, and they don't have competition. They don't. Everybody knows who they are already. But when we're working with companies that are smaller, there's not like a new company that's doing anything entirely different. So it's how can I position them in a way where it actually makes it easier to convert them, and also just get across the right information to them, because like that is actually what matters. Is like if we have the same website as a different company, and we're saying the exact same thing, they're probably going to look at the reviews and make the decision based off the reviews, which they matter, but sometimes could be falsified, or they just get a bunch of reviews and the other company just had never thought about getting reviews. So that's going to have a significant amount of weight on an individual. Or say we're both in Phoenix, Arizona, and one company is in Phoenix and the other one is in Scottsdale. One is 5 minutes away versus 20 minutes away. I'm going to probably go with the one that's closer. So, but it's like, how can I actually stick out to where, hey, I want to drive to the further one, or
Hmm.
whatever that might be. And that also leads to the conversation of attribution too, where if I give better information, that attribution is probably shrunken down. They might not actually have as much of an attribution window to convert over the course of, say, a 5 day sprint. They actually might convert instead in 1 or 2 days now, because we're providing them value that they can isolate and know immediately. Oh, that's who I'm going with. So then now I don't even have to worry about these other channels remarketing and getting into the mix. It shrinks that attribution window down to make them convert a lot sooner. So that's the other kind of move that is very interesting when it comes to kind of leveraging that.
So I love this because I've been having this question bouncing around my brain. And I know this is kind of a loaded question, but we
Bring
talked
it
about
on,
Omni.
baby.
You love loaded questions, don't you? Like the Omni-Channel approach, which if you're not familiar with that phrase, is just more than one channel, multi versus a single channel approach. And I know that the most, I think, dangerous question is, well, what specific channel? Because clients, to be fair, they really want to optimize their budgets. And so they're asking, is my money in the right place? Now, have you ever seen someone succeed despite themselves in having like a single channel approach or two channel, or is omni-channel giving you an incredible leg up in the competition space, but it also is creating a murkier space on the attribution side?
So I would rather be more murky than not, because to me, I just care about revenue. Like I would rather have a client not know what's going on within the funnel sometimes, but tell me that their revenue just went up 25% over the course of, a month. And the only change was they added Facebook ads into the mix. That's an easy answer. Like sometimes there's like everybody wants to look at marketing as data, 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 which I understand. I think that data is so important because it's my job. It's how I make decisions. But after doing this, say for like 10 years and kind of understanding that like data doesn't always tell the story, but it goes back to like this, honestly, like this human feeling of like a gut feeling and intuition. That's an intuitive, like I have an intuitive reaction of going, oh my God, we just went up 25% over month with revenue, and we only added Facebook into the mix, which is like kind of more of a full funnel approach. I'm intuitively going, hey, Facebook just drove that. That helped this campaign work better, and it just floored it. And that's an intuitive feeling. Maybe the data doesn't tell me, and Meta could show zero conversions, and Google hasn't changed. But in my gut, I'm like, that's so intuitive. I don't care if they came through organically. There's no way that 25K just came in out of nowhere. It's an intuitive feeling. But also, I think that when we look at like that murky area, it really kind of depends on how the companies are using that budget and what their plans are moving forward. I think a company can be extremely successful running one channel all the time. But what happens is if they want to scale, they're going to hit a point where the market is now limited, because they are not actually feeding the top of the funnel. Because like if we look at Google ads and not think about YouTube, not think about like unbranded, very like generic keywords, but something that's a little bit more like intentful, um, you are really only focusing on driving conversions and driving sales. And that only takes you so far, where you're going to hit a ceiling where you can't scale anymore, and your cost starts going up and your efficiency starts going down. And so the way to mitigate that is opening other channels to feed the top of the funnel, so that you are actually able to get fresh eyes on your brand, on your product, get fresh search queries in there to understand new data that's coming through and how it Google responds, say, to the Facebook ads that are being run. But then also it gives you an idea of how to actually balance media spend properly in proportion to the sales, the revenue that you're generating. What I've come to with like a lot of companies, it isn't just like I want to spend 50% on Google and 50% on Meta. Don't. What you actually have to understand before you can make that decision is in proportion, how far can I push Google in efficiency before it starts being, deprecated? And what's my balance with Facebook? Some companies run on an 80% Google spend, 20% Facebook, 60-40, or maybe we want to throw Meta more at 60% and Google more at 40. That is actually the true test to understand attribution is how can I balance my channels to change the consumer's journey or change my efficiency to understand the consumer's journey. And you kind of look at it in all these different ways, but that's where marketing starts to actually become more fun and actually like it's a lot more creative focused than data focused sometimes of like how can I like spin this up into a way where like I'm searching for something, not for something that like I know the answer is there. Now this is a game. This is a pure game. Like we have a treasure map and we're just trying to follow this path so that we can, find that treasure. And that's kind of what this is like now.
I like that. I heard this statistic. I do this all the time on these podcasts. I hear these strange statistics that totally relate to our conversation. And this one happened to be on a podcast that Mel Robbins had with, I forget her name, but she was basically this
Love Mel Robbins.
bigwig data. You should listen to it. It's hilarious. This data gal, and I'm so sad. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but she works for Hinge. And I don't remember if it was in this podcast or if it was an article I read sort of supporting this idea, but it was men need 17 positive interactions before they actually think a girl likes them.
Oh my
And
gosh,
I
I can
was
believe it.
like, wow, how this is. And we hear this a lot too. And in your space, I feel like every year I've been in marketing, the number of quote touches or, interactions that a potential customer needs from a business before they make a decision has just increased. And at this point, I don't even know if that number is real. It's just like, how do you kind of, and you touched on it a little bit, but I think a lot of businesses really want the data to be the answer. Like there needs to be some control and structure in marketing. And I think the longer you're in marketing, the more you understand that it's not that it doesn't exist, but it doesn't hold as much weight
Mhm.
as it used to because it's just a more complex ecosystem than it ever has been before. And it's just going to get more
Mhm.
complicated.
No, exactly. And I think that what's really interesting to that too, and I'm not gonna hit companies on this, but I think that there are resources that companies can buy into to find these answers, but they revolt to spending money on these things that they think that don't matter. There's an individual that I'm very close with that is actually like to me the attribution king, and I kind of evolve a lot of my strategy around what he's taught me. A very impactful mentor in my life. And he has been obsessed with finding the right attribution tool. And so these attribution tools could be like a triple whale or a Hyros, or he's found a great couple ones that are like international. One's called Ruler. Another one is out of Brazil. I forgot the name of it. But companies need to sometimes invest in these tools to actually understand the data instead of just relying on the channels alone. Google Analytics does give you some of this data, and Google Ads does as well. Facebook doesn't at all, and no other channel does either. And so I think that what it really comes down to is like, how can I implement a system to understand the amount of interactions or how the individual is like truly reacting? And this could be as simple as adding a form to a nurture sequence after a lead is obtained, or even when somebody is or somebody after somebody submits a lead, where it's just as simple as how did you hear about us? It's like the simplest stupid way to understand somebody's like consumer journey, And like it could
I
even be
wanted
a
to
net.
ask you if that was like a real question that like
Yeah.
because I got three cold emails from someone and I didn't even realize it until I went back. I replied to the third email, and when I went back and I did a search, I was like, "Oh my gosh, they've emailed me multiple times? I had no idea." So if you
Mhm.
asked me, like maybe I could have seen an ad, but if you asked me, "How did you hear about us?" I would say a cold email, not three cold emails that I clearly subconsciously saw and deleted you and then replied. Like,
So
how
yes.
valuable is that question?
Exactly. And that's what's so funny about attribution. And this is gonna make me kind of rant and be manic, but this is where marketing has gone. And that exactly is why companies have to think different because there is such a subconscious interaction with ads that we see on a daily basis that people don't actually think about. It could just even be like I'm watching a TV show and a commercial comes up, and we don't see commercials as much unless like you don't have the top Hulu account or the top Netflix account where they're throwing ads in your face, right? But people like want to be on their phone all of a sudden. Even like when we're scrolling through our feeds, we're going to see these ads, but like we're not going to notice their ads sometimes. We're just going to keep doing it because it's just natural progression of human behavior, right? And so now it's like the way that I actually like to look at it, and this is why for me, for attribution, it's not as important as it used to be. I still think it's important, but this is why I actually think that these companies need to diversify their media spend is it goes back into like the 1960s and 70s Mad Men, like real true like marketing style of like, dude, this brand awareness, these billboards, these commercials, these newspaper ads, like even though you think it's not doing anything, your subconscious is picking all of that up. And like if all of a sudden I see different cereal brands all the time, but then all of a sudden I see probably 20 commercials of, Tony the Tiger, I'm probably going to go to a grocery store and find my way walking down the cereal aisle. And that's the only character that I remember through like, I'm like, oh, he's familiar. Oh, Frosted Flakes. Cool, I'm gonna get that. And that's because I'm buying that because I just saw Tony the Tiger all the time. It's not because Frosted Flakes sounds good. It's like, oh, that's the best. I just heard about it all the time. So I think it's the best. I think I like it. But then there's Fruit Loops right next to it, and I don't even know the parrot's name. Like, I'm not gonna buy that one, right? And so there's just such this subconscious activity that goes on that we don't even realize that that's actually part of our decision making. And it goes to the same thing of like how you and I are interacting right now. There was like a subconscious relationship being built when we're in the office and we're with other employees and we just see how we're interacting with other employees. We already have this, we've already kind of identified, oh, I like this about Matthew and Sarah. I like this about Sarah. I don't really like this about her. Oh, she might be like too aggressive for me in terms of getting performance and doing all this work, but like I'm not saying that and I'm not really thinking it, but my subconscious is identifying that. And then I'm going to move based off of my subconscious and my conscious minds. It's the same thing with marketing and how we can evaluate consumers' behaviors.
Oh, I love the consumer behavior psychology part has been really fascinating as it's also evolving. And I heard this also another podcast, and she is a huge, basically a data psychologist, and she was just talking about how even still today, the people must understand that marketing is still in a way guessing because part of it is testing based on familiar patterns that you've exhibited. So we're
Mhm.
trying to predict the future of your behaviors with your past history. And I think that's also part of the challenge in saying, I really want, this is where the ROI thing is sort of coming full circle is I want my dollar to prove another dollar. And what we're saying here is you have to diversify just like a portfolio of investments. Certain things do better at certain times. There are assets that perform better when the economy is down and vice versa. And not having a full approach that is at least optimizing where you are is challenging for a business to continue to scale and grow with their marketing dollars. So if there was like one piece of advice you could either offer marketers and or business owners, like something they could do or a question they could ask, like maybe what's your favorite question that you get asked that actually yields really good conversations? What is that?
How should I look at my revenue?
Mm,
It's such a boring question, but it has so many different lanes that you can dive into. Just how can I measure my revenue? Do I look at it from, do I only measure my revenue about, what's coming into my bank account? Do I measure my revenue based off what's being generated from ads, um, from a single channel, from the entire marketing program? Or am I just only measuring available capital? And after everything, like what's my gross profit? Like how am I actually measuring my revenue? Like I think, like how are you measuring your revenue for marketers and for business owners? Because if we actually look at it, and we've worked with hundreds, maybe even thousands of clients at this point, there are some clients that don't even know their business like the back of their hands. And I think that every single business owner needs to look at every single aspect of how they are driving revenue and really identify how they want to measure their own revenue and success within their business. And I think that goes for marketers as well. I think that they need to treat these businesses like their own. And I think they need to understand, how are you going to measure this company's revenue? Because how I measure a home remodel's revenue is going to be different than how I measure an e-commerce revenue, right? So it's like, how do you measure your revenue? Period.
I love that because it's kind of like an inception type of question. You've got each
Hmm.
department in your business operating and ultimately driving toward the one goal, which Jay and I harped on this in a past episode, which was like the one number you should care about is revenue. And why every department isn't tied to that is always strange to us. Like there should be no other KPI. There should be supporting KPIs to that one number. But marketing has within itself its own ecosystem of driving revenue as should each department marketing being a part of that. And Rob and I talked about this, his book, The 6 R's, he likens it back to this kind of spider web approach of every single part of your business is actually marketing.
Hmm.
But if you are losing space in one of those, picking it up and making sure that's an equal distance, so it's a very pretty looking spider web is the one way in which you can then get this power underneath you to kind of build it upwards. And so I
Absolutely.
I think what you said, not that you need me to agree with you, but I agree with you.
Mhm.
I think
And,
that's
I-
a great
and,
question.
And I think the other thing too, and this is actually like a second tier answer to that is, and not even I would get okay. So that's the answer to the question, and that's the question that individuals should ask, in my opinion. Um, but I think that let me give an action off of that. So the question that every individual needs to ask is, how should I measure my own revenue? And then I think the next action is establishing your goal. And then based off of questioning yourself on how you measure revenue and establishing a goal based off of how you question your revenue, the most important piece that people forget, and they only do a quarter of this work a lot of the time instead of creating spider webs, because I love that. And I think that that's actually part of this. It's just it's just spoken in a different way and acted in a different way. You have to purely reverse engineer directly from that revenue goal or that question. How do I want to measure revenue? Okay, if I want to make $50 million this year, how do I achieve that? Because that is actually going to make you measure revenue differently as you look at everything from the top down. You have to reverse engineer that system.
Mm, I like that a lot. Well, Matt, this was hopefully a very helpful episode for our listeners. I know I enjoy these conversations and I hope, you
I,
get
I,
enjoyment out of nerding out with me, even though I'm probably base level compared to a lot of people.
No, this is so fun. I don't know if individuals want to hear me talk and rant for, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour or whatever it might have been. I lost track of time inside of my head. But I hope they enjoyed it.
It's fun. And what's crazy is if we plan on having this conversation like in 6 months or a year, how it's going to be different. I think that
It's gonna be so
actually would be
different.
a fun follow-up. We
Hmm.
listen to this episode and then we have a follow-up episode of like, and what has changed?
I might even just print out the scripts of the transcription, and then I'm going to annotate everything that I said, and I'm going to be like, let's just break it down, second by second. What was wrong? What wasn't wrong? What has changed? Did I just like lie completely, just to sound good? Like, what's going on?
The prediction models are going to be
Yeah,
so interesting,
exactly.
man. Well, I really enjoyed having you, and I hope you enjoyed yourself as well. And yeah, we hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Everybody have a good day. I would say work with us. I can make you manic. Let's do it. Let's run up the revenue.
I love that. Yes, please. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Revenue Rewired podcast. Send us your questions to podcast@stringcaninteractive.com and follow us for more insights to drive your business forward.